Testing the sound. Good morning. We start Cumipaz, Guatemala 2018, the Summit of Integration for Peace. We immediately invite the following personalities to accompany us right here in this place. Dr. Oscar Cobar, National Secretary of Science and Technology of the Republic of Guatemala. Mrs. Gabriela Lara, the General Director of the Global Embassy of Activists for Peace. Mr. Dmitry Kharkov Zaitsev, representative of the General Forum of United Nations for Indigenous Affairs for the Russian Federation. And Dr. Rajendra Pachuri, Nobel Prize of Peace 2017. The Summit for the Integration of Peace is an international space that convoques on people and authorities from different fields that interact for the human being with the aim of addressing that the states and supranational organizations are planning to execute for the integral peace and sustainability of human family and of the Mother Earth. We immediately proceed to sing the national anthem of the Republic of Guatemala. The Summit for the Integration for Peace started in Chile in 2015. You may be seated, please. Later, on 2016, it was in Paraguay. Last year, 2017, it was celebrated in Panama City. And in 2018, Cumipaz is being celebrated in the Republic of Guatemala,
como punto de convergencia.
a country selected as a point of convergence for the world, for the dialogue and integration for the integral peace, universal justice, sustainable development of nations, the preservation of Mother Earth. This session of science for the preservation of life of the Mother Earth and the human being started last year. Let us right now see a presentation video of the science session which explains the advances that it has had since this session started.
Albert Einstein dijo, ¿por qué esta magnífica tecnología científica que ahorra trabajo y nos hace la vida más fácil nos aporta tan poca felicidad? La respuesta es esta, simplemente porque aún no hemos aprendido a usarla con acierto. Entendiendo que actualmente el desarrollo de la ciencia y la tecnología deben acompañar el desarrollo individual y social de los seres humanos en armonía con la Madre Tierra, otorgando el lugar importante que merecen los seres ancestrales indígenas del mundo, la Embajada Mundial de Activistas por la Paz realizó la sesión de la ciencia para la preservación de la vida de la Madre Tierra y del ser humano, como parte de la Cumbre de Integración por la Paz en Panamá 2017. Se reunieron a científicos, líderes indígenas, humanistas, académicos, investigadores, especialistas en el área ambiental de la Madre Tierra y de la salud del ser humano, provenientes de varios países del mundo, para exponer sus investigaciones con propuestas específicas que plantean acciones concretas para alcanzar la paz integral, la felicidad y la preservación de la vida de los seres humanos en armonía con el planeta Tierra y demás seres vivos. De acuerdo con los compromisos asumidos en la declaración de esta sesión, se tomaron aportes importantes de las exposiciones presentadas para el módulo de la paz de la Madre Tierra, de la Cátedra para la Paz y la Felicidad del Ser Humano Integral, propuesta y construida por la Embajada Mundial de Activistas por la Paz. Asimismo, ante la necesidad de reglas éticas y normativas para consolidar las acciones orientadas a la preservación de la vida de la Madre Tierra y del ser humano, los panelistas y conferencistas se comprometieron en trabajar unidos por la promoción y presentación de la Carta Ambiental Interamericana, la cual fue presentada ante la Organización de Estados Americanos durante la Asamblea General Anual de este organismo multilateral en junio 2018. Por otra parte, la EMAP ha estado socializando los conceptos de la preservación de la vida de la Madre Tierra y del ser humano ante los gobiernos locales y regionales, promoviendo la realización de decretos y resoluciones oficiales, reconociendo al planeta Tierra como ser vivo y adoptando reglas éticas basadas en conocimientos científicos y de los pueblos indígenas, alcanzando más de 500 resoluciones y proclamas oficiales en toda América. Se está desarrollando el método alternativo de reeducación ambiental y el manual del buen habitante de la Madre Tierra, los cuales serán parte del trabajo que se desarrollará con las comunidades de las ciudades que han emitido los decretos. En esta nueva edición de la sesión Ciencia para la Preservación de la Vida de la Madre Tierra y del Ser Humano, esperamos consolidar la creación de la Red Global de la Preservación de la Vida de la Madre Tierra y del Ser Humano, con la visión de unir nuevas consideraciones y compromisos para trabajar por la felicidad integral del ser humano en armonía con la Madre Tierra y demás seres vivos.
It's incredible that in such a short time, so many achievements that we have had with the support of everyone. And immediately I invite who is the engine to this team held by many volunteers, which is Mrs. Gabriela Lara, who is the General Director of the Global Embassy of Activists for Peace. Good morning. First, to welcome all our authorities making part of the honor table. Thank you very much for your presence and support so that the realization of this summit is a reality. I also want to thank all the authorities, international authorities and national authorities that have made of this summit. In spite of the fact that we're starting, we have the certainty that this will be of a great success. And this is precisely a space for debating, integrating, present proposals at the judicial level, at the science level, also on the health field, and at the level also of indigenous people, the music, the education, the politics, so that we can all together build ways for the peace and happiness of the human being. And this morning, in the name of Dr. William Soto Santiago, the president of our institution will welcome you, and we'll start with the session Science for the Preservation of Life of Mother Earth and of the Human Being. This session, with which we start today, has very concrete objectives to integrate, synchronize, and implement and complement the know-hows of the science and technology and the indigenous knowledges with the foundation of the right to the defense of the human dignity and the principles of values and love for life and the rights of our Mother Earth through concrete actions with all sectors and actors of society so that we can precisely preserve that life of the human being and the life of the Mother Earth. The Peace Integration Summit, besides opening a space for all those who promote the practice of new knowledges and scientific discoveries, technological discoveries, scientific research, to integrate that with the proposals of indigenous people, also propose to initiate concrete actions, both in individual as well as collective, for the preservation and sustaining of the earth with all the living beings confirming it, especially us, we, the human beings. I want to leave with you some words of our ambassador, our president, Dr. William Soto Santiago, who was not able to join us physically because of health issues, but the objective of this work and this session is precisely moved by the values of Dr. William Soto Santiago and his mission in his work for peace and the happiness of human beings. Thank you very much again, and I want to leave with you this brief conference.
Bienvenidos a la Cumbre de Integración por la Paz 2018. Un saludo a todas las honorables autoridades, personalidades, representantes de gobierno, académicos, investigadores, empresarios y los ciudadanos presentes en este maravilloso recinto histórico de Guatemala. Gracias por aceptar nuestra invitación. Hoy, lunes 1 de octubre, estamos iniciando la Cumbre de Integración por la Paz con la sesión Ciencia para la Preservación de la Vida de la Madre Tierra y del ser humano. La vida en la Madre Tierra se encuentra acogida y resguardada a través de los diferentes sistemas vitales y procesos ecológicos. Los seres humanos formamos parte de este complejo y a la vez sutil sistema de vida, pero con los problemas ambientales que hemos causado, lamentablemente también hemos afectado ese equilibrio ecológico, siendo esto la principal causa en la proliferación de enfermedades ambientales. Por otra parte, en mayo de 2018, la Organización Mundial de la Salud expuso los principales problemas de salud a los que se enfrenta la humanidad. Según estos reportes mundiales, la mayoría de estos problemas se derivan de la mala alimentación, los problemas ambientales y la genética heredada. Está comprobado que la salud del ser humano está ligada estrechamente a la salud de la madre tierra. Por tanto, si trabajamos juntos en ambos campos, tenemos la esperanza de que logremos reconectar y equilibrar la vida con armonía entre todos los seres vivos y los recursos que nos proporciona el planeta. Los pueblos y naciones indígenas, nativas y originarias tienen este conocimiento desde hace cientos de años y ellos luchan para mantener sus costumbres y sabiduría ancestral. Por otra parte, la comunidad científica ha comenzado a comprender y apreciar en un nivel más profundo cómo todos estamos interconectados y afectados por los campos magnéticos generados por el Sol y la Tierra. Y lógicamente, las interrupciones y desequilibrios en estos campos afectan negativamente la salud y el comportamiento humano. Según las publicaciones de la revista digital Genome Biology, los investigadores de la Universidad de Cambridge descubrieron que muchos de nuestros genes provienen de otros organismos. Usted y yo y todos los demás seres humanos tenemos parte en nuestro ADN que no son humanos. Ya se han detectado hasta 145 genes que se lograron transferir a nuestro código genético de otras especies, entre ellas los primates, plantas, bacterias y microorganismos. Otras investigaciones han descubierto que existen animales con los que compartimos hasta el 96% de similitud genética y plantas que tienen un 60% del mismo ADN que los seres humanos. Con estas pruebas científicas sobre las similitudes en la genética entre los humanos y otras especies, quizás muchos se preguntarán, entonces, ¿qué es lo que nos hace seres humanos? El ser humano es parte trascendental en la naturaleza. Es el único ser vivo que puede crecer en conocimiento día a día y desarrollar su inteligencia y adquirir sabiduría. Sobre esta base, tiene la capacidad de razonar, reflexionar, adquirir conocimiento y asumir su responsabilidad de forma consciente del cuidado, equilibrio, armonía y preservación de la Madre Tierra, así como de promover acciones en favor de la defensa de sus derechos. Pero lo más importante es que el ser humano tiene libre albedrío en su corazón, el poder para tomar decisiones, lo que nos diferencia de los otros seres vivos. Y si estas decisiones se fundamentan en principios y valores, responsablemente podemos tomar decisiones tanto individuales como colectivas. En tus manos, en mis manos, en tu mente y en mi mente, en tu corazón y en mi corazón está el poder de tomar las decisiones correctas, de escuchar nuevas visiones y luchar juntos por la vida. Bienvenidos nuevamente, amigos, a la Cumbre de Integración por la Paz 2018 y a la sesión Ciencia para la Preservación de la Vida, de la Madre Tierra y del ser humano. Muchas gracias.
Our inspiration, Dr. William Soto Santiago, he's given us this important message with such a clarity about the environmental subject, ecological, for this moment, and with the words that our director, Mrs. Gabriela Lara, who is the General Director of the Global Embassy of Activists for Peace, that we're formally starting today this summit. Immediately, we want the words of Dr. Oscar Manuel Tovar, who is the General Secretary for Science and Technology, SENASIC. He's the National Secretary of this department, which is the organ that coordinates science and technology for Guatemala. He dedicates his work to the study for the raw materials that is provided to the national organisms and that can work to develop new medicines, the study of new molecules, which are the base for life, and from which all living beings are made of.
Como ayudante de la cátedra
He has been also a lecturer in the Chemical School of San Carlos University in Guatemala. With us now, Dr. Oscar Manuel Tovar. Mrs. Gabriela Lara, General Director of the Global Embassy of Activists for Peace. Dr. Rajendra Pachauri, Nobel Prize winner of 2017. Mr. Dimitri Karaka, representative of the Permanent Forum of the United Nations for the Indigenous Peoples.
se recupere.
We wish Dr. William Soto Santiago to recover very soon, the Executive President of the Global Embassy of Activists for Peace. Dr. Manuel Diaz, moderator of this table, distinguished panelists, government officials accompanying us today, officials from national and international organizations, scholars, national and international, honoring us with their presence, diplomatic body, the media, special guests, friends, men and women. If we understand the peace as those processes that contribute to the satisfaction of human needs in conditions of equity and sustainability, it is undoubtedly that the science and technology play a very important role in its development. For that to be a reality in our country, we have to construct a scientific culture to have the science come close to society, to translate the knowledges, necessary knowledges, so that they can understand the social problematic, so that they can be capable of propose viable alternatives for solution, and to choose actions for the economical development with a future vision. Today, not only in our country, the problems connected to underdevelopment, like food security, lack of prevention for the effects of climate change, health and education systems that are limited, can be solved, all of them slowly, if public policies are designed based on scientific knowledge, and if we use science and the technology and innovation as fundamental axes of our development.
En Guatemala,
In Guatemala, we are advancing
el señor presidente
thanks to the support of the President of the Republic, and especially of the Vice President Rafael Cabrera, who is the President of the National Council for Science and Technology. We have, based on our national policy for science and technology, a strategic plan for science and technology for 2018 and until 2025. 13 new lines for financing to finance strategic actions of formation of human resource of high level, generation of scientific knowledge, entrepreneurial innovation, development and transference of technology, and massification of technology. All that to strengthen our scientific infrastructure, to create an innovation system and a scientific culture in the country. The subjects for education, childhood and youth, gender and disability, as well as the recognition of the traditional knowledges and the environment, are transversal axes. Let us generate, instead of importing technologies, let us transform our productive system into one that is based on technological fields. Having innovation as base for development, let us use the scientific and the human resource of universities to generate synergies. Let us motivate the private sector to innovate in their processes. Let us link the universities to the productive processes. And as a state, let us orient our resources to finance projects, joint projects, giving answer to the problems, and let us consolidate our scientific potential. I want to finish full of hope and convinced that we're going through the right path with one of the many thoughts of Albert Einstein. He said at his time, one person who has never made a mistake never tries something new. Let us keep on working. Thank you very much.
Bueno, le damos las gracias al doctor.
We thank Dr. Manuel Escobar in representation of the government of Guatemala. We want to thank yesterday the governor who is here with us today, as well as the ministers and the high authorities of the government of Guatemala who are honoring us with their presence. Undoubtedly, we're warming up the engines. Cumipaz has already started with this passion of loving nature, of understanding that it is a ecological spirituality, so we can achieve peace and human happiness. Today we have the honor of presenting for the first time with us. We are very proud of his presence here, Mr. Dimitri Harkasej. He has a doctorate degree in law. He works as a lawyer in exercise. He's a member of the board for national autonomy in Finland. He's a member of the indigenous community of Solachokula. He has wide experience in indigenous matters and interrelations with authorities at multiple levels. From 1995, He's dedicated to the protection of national minorities and the rights of indigenous peoples, the development of the languages and the culture of indigenous people. He's here today as the co-vice president of the Permanent Forum of the United Nations.
Dear brothers and sisters, dear colleagues, on behalf of United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues and myself personally, let me congratulate you with a high-profile event. United Nations Declaration on Indigenous Peoples' Rights, 2007, is a code of international principles of indigenous peoples' rights, stipulates the minimal standards to be executed by authorities to preserve and support indigenous people. Our Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues pays a great attention to each area covered by this declaration. During its annual sessions, we carefully examine negative and positive practices which exist in certain member states. Also, we work on it in between the sessions. We work together with indigenous communities, non-governmental organizations, United Nations mechanisms, and of course authorities and state institutions to find out the most effective measures to stop or avoid the violations of non-conformities and to develop and to improve the mechanisms which were already implemented. But we will never find the answer without hearing and listening indigenous people, their voices and their initiatives. That is why such platform as Cumipaz, and certainly this conference, is important for connecting indigenous people, academics, officials, to hear each other, to put into agenda the actual issues, and to find out the compromises and solutions. This is a dialogue which we always need and which we always must support. The last session of Permanent Forum was dedicated to the problematic of indigenous territories and different spheres of indigenous life within these territories. The modern tendencies always find their reflection in our final recommendation, in our resolution. I would like to mention that, taking into account the recommendations prepared by Permanent Forum members in 2016, United Nations General Assembly proclaimed the year of 2019, so it's the next year, as the International Year of Indigenous Languages. And I urge you and I call you to participate in the action plan for indigenous languages revitalization. This is kind of reaction to the current situation. Unfortunately, in many regions of the world, we still observe disrespect for indigenous core values. We observe destruction of indigenous environment, window dressing activities, evasion of generally recognized principles, and state duties introduced by national legislation. We see manipulations and we see arrangement the conditions for assimilation. I regret that many of the state authorities, in any manner whatsoever, forgot their place and their role. They forgot why we have the state, why and for what reasons we have the government and its apparatus. Now it is the time to reconsider the approaches, to reevaluate measures, and to change the attitude in terms of indigenous peoples, their languages, cultures, natural and traditional resources, current and future lives. However, these changes are possible only with the authentic feeling of decision makers. Permanent Forum always mentions that indigenous peoples are not enemies of the state, only because they are asking to exercise their rights. Indigenous people are the persons with active citizenship. They are stakeholders and human beings. It is necessary to remind to the states that in jurisprudence, in the theory of law, there are two well-determined legal constructions: crime of omission and criminal action. Omission is less visible, but equally dangerous to such crimes as forced assimilation, migration, genocide, and ecocide. During the 20th century, scholars all over the world have been making efficient efforts in indigenous languages studies, accumulating knowledge and linguistic data to preserve languages. Indigenous people sharing their knowledge with researchers in the hope that it will help the next generations to use the language, to preserve culture, and to transfer the heritage to young people for continuation of the life. Nevertheless, we see that many languages and many intangible heritage are well preserved in the scholars' records, only in their records. While indigenous people living at their historical lands suffer lack of language teachers, absence of educational systems, inability to implement good practices in revitalization of languages. They have to survive under the industrial pressure, with the lack of access to their traditional natural resources such as forest, water, sea, land. We shall meet a challenge and initiate practical and efficient actions together with indigenous people and the states to save or revitalize the languages and cultures in their living form. I believe that the top priority in revitalization of indigenous languages and cultures at indigenous territories and within indigenous territories. This must include preservation of traditional culture, social and ecological environment as an integral system. Only the systematic and comprehensive approach may help to achieve practical results. Estimadas señores y señoras, estimadas hermanas y hermanos, gracias por la invitación y por oportunidad.
Thank you for the opportunity of participating in such a high level. I just wish all of you a happy and a helpful, productive work. Thank you. Thanks, Dimitri, for his participation. Today we also have the great honor of crowning with the Nobel Prize of 2017. Dr. Rajendra Pachauri. He was the president of the Intergovernmental Group Expert on Climate Change. He was in charge since 2022 until 2015. The organism received the award, the Nobel Prize in 2017. Also, General Director of TEDI, making public policies in India. Chancellor, also member of the National President of the Board of the Columbia University. Such a great honor to have with us Nobel Prize winner of 2017, Dr. Rajendra Pachauri. Good morning.
It's a great privilege for me to be here. And I wanted to mention that I received the Nobel Peace Prize on behalf of the IPCC in 2007. That was quite a while ago. I have a PowerPoint presentation, which I hope has been loaded. And I presume this is the device that I would be using for changing the slides. Is this it? No.
Is a microphone.
Okay.
I'll give you again there.
Okay. Let me start by saying that it's a great privilege to be here, and I'm particularly happy that we are dealing with issues of science, technology, and the preservation of Mother Earth, and the ability of human beings to live in peace and harmony with Mother Earth. I'm very grateful to the Director General of GEAP by Madam Gabriela Lara. It was a great privilege to hear Dr. William Soto Santiago, who I haven't had the opportunity to meet, and I would greatly wish to go and see him in Puerto Rico and meet him sometime in the very near future. I'm also very grateful that we've had the wisdom of Dr. Oscar Kobar and Dr. Dmitry Karakazaytsev. I think this is a unique meeting. And as a matter of fact, I write every 2 weeks an op-ed piece for an Indian newspaper every second Friday. And this time, I'm actually going to write about Cumipaz because I am deeply impressed with the whole concept of this meeting and the fact that you have so many persons, particularly from Latin America, getting together to talk about issues that are going to define the future of humanity and planet Earth. And I wanted to check if my slides have been mounted.
Yes, your presentation will be managed by the equipment, okay?
Okay, so shall I just say
Yes.
next? Okay, all right. So I start my presentation with a brief video. I have two organizations that I've launched. One is called the World Sustainable Development Forum. And some of you may have been to Davos, which is a gathering of the richest and the most powerful people on planet Earth, meeting once a year. They often fly in there in their private jets, spend a meager $20,000 per night to stay there. And they talk about all the problems of the world. But I'm sorry to say that they have done very little in terms of following up and implementing some of the measures by which we would see human society move on the path of sustainable development and the protection of planet Earth. So I felt there is need to set up a global forum that focuses on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement on climate change. And this is called the World Sustainable Development Forum, and I'm very happy to tell you that there are about 25 former heads of state and heads of government, some from the Latin American region, who are patrons of this organization. The second organization is called Protect Our Planet, or the POP movement, which focuses on the youth of the world. Because I'm convinced that national governments will not be able to deal effectively with the challenge of meeting the problem of climate change and adhering to the Sustainable Development Goals. So I am convinced that it is the youth of the world who have to take leadership and who have to initiate change. And we have very little time in which to do that. If we fail to do it, then I'm sorry, not only is the future of youth on this planet going to be imperiled, but we would also cause serious problems to all species on planet Earth. And as Dr. William Soto Santiago reminded us, we cannot live in isolation with all other species on Earth. Even our genes are in some sense common to what you have with other living beings. So with this, I'd like to request that we play the first video, which is at the start of my presentation.
speech with the opponents, it's at the afternoon. Now it's only on opening speech.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry, this is my mistake. I was told my presentation is in the afternoon, so I don't want to burden you with anything more at this point of time. And what I would like to emphasize is that we are at a unique moment in history. We have so much knowledge, we have so much ability and capacity to be able to bring about change in the direction of sustainability. And if we don't do it as soon as possible, and by mobilizing every stakeholder, which includes government, civil society, business, and most importantly, academia, we would fail in our responsibility not only to the present generation, but generations yet to come. And I would think that we need Cumipaz being held in every part of the globe, in every region, so that we rise above the normal day-to-day tensions and differences that we have, and that we actually bring about a substantial shift towards things that really contribute to happiness. I'm sorry to say that human society has become so addicted to greater and greater consumption, and that, to my mind, is distorting everything that we are doing as part of society. Really speaking, happiness comes from love, from understanding, from close relationships with family members, and in general, an understanding of what every human being on planet Earth is capable of and is interested in. And I think we have to bring about this shift, because you have seen the enormous amount of waste that is being generated as a result of this consumptive obsession that we have all over the world. A projection has been made that by the middle of this century, we will have more plastic in the oceans than fish. And it's already known that fish are eating a lot of plastic, and we are eating those fish instead. So we don't know what that's going to do to our systems. And this is only one example of how the circular economy, where everything we produce, everything we throw away, comes back to us. There are several other examples. The whole transport system, which is based on emissions of carbon dioxide and other pollutants. And every major city in the world is today the victim of air pollution, which is harming our lungs, which is harming our bodies. So it is time that we woke up. It is time that we use the knowledge that's available, all the data, all the facts that tell us that we have to bring about change. I'll end by saying something that my dear friend Thomas Friedman, who writes for the New York Times, always says. He says the problem with the world is there are too many Americans. And what he says is that everybody wants to live like an American. And it was Mahatma Gandhi who, many years ago, was asked by a British journalist, Mr. Gandhi, don't you want India to reach the same level of prosperity as Britain? And Gandhi, who was a very wise person, he also had a sense of humor. He said, look, it required Britain to use half the resources of this planet to be able to reach its level of prosperity. How many planets would a country like India require? So I think that's something what we need to reflect on. Muchas gracias.